Hello and welcome to the House Whisperer Show on WWDB Talk 860. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement with the man who talks to houses and listens to what they say. Professional home inspector Jack Milne. Jack, welcome back to WWDB.
Well, thank you, Barry. It's really neat how the temperatures are starting to change. We're getting these nice, crisp nights, still somewhat warm days, but before you know it, Barry, all these leaves are going to be off those trees that we talked about last week. And I thought this segment I would do is going to be about low-sloped roofs. Those of us who live in the suburbs are used to pitched roofs. But, before we added angles to our roof surfaces, everything in the city was considered flat. But as we all know, nothing is always perfectly flat because otherwise the roofs don't drain. So the appropriate term is a low-sloped roof. So, Jack Milne with Barry today, and I always appreciate the efforts of WWDB. But without my sponsors, I wouldn't be able to talk to you today. So today we're going to do websites again. I think websites really tend to give a nice history as to the folks that you should seek out if you need some assistance. Burrow Exterminating. They do termite and radon testing, and they're out of Glenolden. Their website is burrowexterminating.com. Bucksmont Inspections. Their email is bucksmontinspections.com. Very simple. They're located actually out of Sellersville, but they do service I call them the outskirts of Philadelphia. So they can do Chester, Montgomery, Bucks counties. They also do dabble somewhat into New Jersey. Pest Blaster. Mike Cantor is actually going to be on the show next week, and we're going to talk about mice. So their website is pestblaster.com. Of course, my company, Tri-County Inspection Company, we're actually serve 13 counties, but I ask that you find out a little bit more about the company. I've been operating since 1985, and that website is tcinspect.com. And then, of course, there's always brainflushgear.com. You can't make it any more complicated than that. They have been telling me they've been getting some orders in, and to say, please say thank you to the listeners. So thank you to the listeners. The email box today, I actually heard from Susan, and I don't hear, I email, but from Susan from Phoenixville. Thanks for the show on child safety after school. You brought us some good points about garage door safety, where the main controls are in the house, and providing a list for the neighbors that are available by phone. So, again, thank you for the tips. And I responded back, Susan, thanks for the emails. I try to bring to every listener simple things that all families can do to make their families safe and their houses work better. So, again, email me at the, at the House Whisperer Show at gmail.com. Of course, visit the website at housewhispershow.com for previous episodes. If sponsors are interested, please reach out to me at 215-295-2030. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, low-sloped roof maintenance for the fall and winter. First off, I'd like to just go through the variety of low-sloped roofs and life expectancies, quality, etc. So I think the cheapest roof is what we call a one-ply granular surface. Another fancy name for that is rolled roofing. It's really the cheapest roof with the lowest life expectancy. Thank God I don't see too many of this type of roof anymore, but general life expectancy could be maybe 5 to 7 years. It does get confused with a granular modified bitumen roof, but we're going to talk about that one in a minute. 2- and 3-ply hot roofs. I think they're probably one of the most popular roof systems in the city. And what a roofer does is he puts a base sheet down over the roof decking, and that could be 1x8s, 1x10s, 1x12s, or even plywood today. And so they put the base sheet down, and then if they put 2 plies over it, I know that because there's an 18-inch exposure between the overlaps. If it's a 3-ply roof, there's a 12-inch gap between the overlaps. So it's very easy to tell how many plies are on the roof. So at the same time, there's this term that's called BUR, B-U-R. It's a roofing term for built-up roofing. And one of the things that I can't do as a home inspector is do what we call a core sample. So sometimes as these houses are built in the 1920s, 1930s, even turn of the century, roofing contractors had a tendency of adding more layers upon layers upon layers and upon layers of these roofing felts. And about the only way that I can tell is by the curb at the skylight. And some of you who are living in the city have a skylight that you open for when showers are taken in your bathroom. So if I start to see that curb beginning to disappear, well, then that's telling me that there's way too many roofs on the roof surface, being your sheathing. So a 3-ply roof is better than a 2-ply roof. Why? Because you've got more layers of protection with that 12-inch overlap. Now, when you can always tell when someone is recoating the roof because the stinky tar buckets in the neighborhood, everyone can smell it. And typically you have to do a hot tar coat not only when you put the surface down, but also about every 4 to 6 years depending on sun exposure. The life expectancies of these 2- and 3-ply roofs is only about 10 years. So in order to maintain the warranty that the roofer provides, you must, and the bold term is must, recoat between the 4th and 6th year, and that'll be dictated by the roofing contractor as part of the contract. If you don't recoat, what happens is, if you think about it, I use this demonstration with my clients. I have a navy blue placard that I put my notes on. And as I hold it out in the sun, the darker side, of course, is going to absorb more heat, where the other side, where I take my notes with white paper, is going to reflect the heat. So we always encourage that once the hot tar coat is applied, to wait about 6 months, so it gives it good time to cure, and then a silver coat should be applied. Now, a hot tar coat for recoating in that 4th to 6th year generally runs anywhere between maybe $700 to $800, but again, it requires the stinky bucket. The cold coat or silver coat can be mopped down. Now, that can be done usually by anybody, but I can tell you those 5-gallon buckets get heavy. And then I always joke that you always want to use your oldest sneakers that you can find in the closet, which may not fit anymore, but you're going to get them all kind of silver-coated if you're not careful. So it does make a difference. It does prolong the life between the coatings. It will also make your house cooler. So these are all good things that a lot of homeowners can do on their own. If they're a little bit leery about climbing ladders, which I can understand, a roofing contractor can take care of that as well. Now, because it's now October and you can feel these temperature changes, it's almost time to go ahead and coat them now, okay? And I'm putting that in bold print now, because once our temperatures start dropping and we start having averages in the 40s, folks, it's actually too late. So if you don't remember when the last time was that you coated your roof, guess what? It's probably time, isn't it? And again, if you know you have a 3-ply hot roof, then you might need to do a silver coat first, because the hot tar literally bonds the felts together. And these felts are only what we call 90-pound roofing material. So in a 10 by 10 area, it only weighs 90 pounds. Now let's compare that to a fiberglass shingle. Let's say the older 3-tab shingles, which weigh 225 pounds, or today's architectural shingles that start at 300 pounds and can go up to almost 400 pounds in the 10 by 10 area. And that's why these low-sloped roofs are so critical to maintain, because we're not out to make swimming pools. You know, that's in the backyard. What we're out to do is to keep your house dry. So if you can't remember the last time that you brought the stinky bucket into the neighborhood, do it now. And then what you can do is come maybe next spring is apply that silver coat. The next type of roof I want to talk about is modified bitumen. Now, what that means is that the roofing material is a combination of tar and rubber and some asphalt. So it's a modified bitumen roof. It does come with granules, and all low-sloped roofs require some maintenance, but with the modified bitumens, or as I call them, mod bits, without the granules, maintenance is less. And if you think about it this way, we'll kind of give a good simile. Granules will tend to slow the traffic of water from the highest pitch of the roof to the lowest pitch, where your eave box or your gutter is. So sometimes when the roof pitch is too low, then you can't go with a granular surface. You have to go with the surface without the stones. The granular surface requires no coatings, but the ones without the granules do. And I hope, Barry, I'm not confusing the general public out there.
No, you're making it very clear, although there is a lot of confusion about, I have to say, about roofs, because I'm sorry to say, from what I understand, there are many unscrupulous roofers, and they've given the industry a bad name.
Well, you're absolutely right, Barry, and I think it goes back to a show we did a few weeks ago about referrals.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you're
go back and listen to that show before you get your roof, right?
I think it's a great idea, and you want to talk to your neighbors, and again, you want to talk to your work associates to see what they had done in the past and what kind of warranties are offered. Because the product is only as good as the warranty.
And it's a good time for us to take a break.
Okay.
We're talking to the House Whisperer, and then, as I say, he knows everything about a house from the roof to the basement, and today we are all the way up on the roof. We should play that song by the Drifters, Up on the Roof, today.
Oh, that's a great song.
We'll take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and Jack has much more to talk about as far as your roof. Stay with us.
The flowers in the vase that you bought today.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today, and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers show.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They're licensed in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy 'cause of...
We are back with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, and Jack is talking about a very important subject today. Because it's the top of your house and it's what protects it from the rain and the snow and all the elements. And if it's got problems, believe me, you've got problems. Correct, Jack?
Absolutely, Barry. And, as we were going through the initial part of the episode today, we were talking about different styles of roofs. We talked about the rolled roofing, which is the worst, followed by 2-ply and 3-ply roofs. And we just got done modified bitumen. But before we talk about real weaknesses, there's a really good roof out there and it's made of rubber. So Goodyear, BF Goodrich, a lot of your tire companies actually make rubber roofs. And it's truly the best in the business. It does cost about a third more to install, but absolutely no maintenance for about 15 years. So it's almost like having a Goodyear tire on your roof. But what's very important for you to know is that when it goes down, it has to be torched down. In other words, they have to heat up the tar under the existing roof, or they lay they heat up the tar after the base sheet is applied, and then they roll this out over the roof, and it's almost bulletproof. It does cost a little bit more, but as I tell my clients, if you put a 3-ply hot roof down, and then you have to pay for the coating again in that 5th to 6th year, well, guess what? You just paid for your rubber roof with no maintenance for 15 years. So as I tell my clients, you really want to think about how long you plan to stay within the home before you put good money into your roof. And Barry brought up a good point. There's nothing better than a good roof over your head, and that's where your house really starts. But let's kick into some weaknesses. Weak spots, edge flashings, common wall flashings, vent stacks, skylights. Any and all penetrations need to be sealed with tar, usually every 2 to 3 years, because tar has a tendency to expand, contract, and crack. So even though you might have that good modified bitumen roof up there, every once in a while you got to get up there with a bucket of tar and seal things over one more time. The eave box, the eave box is almost like a downspout that sits in the lowest corner of the roof, and this is where all your roof water drains. So you've got to make sure that stays clear of debris. If you have trees or even tennis balls, it can become blocked, and then your roof actually does become a swimming pool. Satellite dishes or antennas. If you have an antenna, remove it. I mean, why not have like a lightning strike come to your house because you have the highest, most metal object in the neighborhood? And what I usually find, too, is that they attach it not only to the roof, but they attach it to your vent stack. So if your house gets struck by lightning and your antenna is attached to the vent, you tend to electrify your entire plumbing system. So give that one food for thought. Now, flashing details. I think of chimneys, again, your vent stacks, roof vents, turbines, skylights, mounting brackets for satellite dishes, edge flashings, common wall flashings, and the eave box. Again, all these items have to be kept sealed. Now let's talk about a few of them. A turbine, of course, is a roof vent that spins in the wind. Your skylight, some are fixed and some are made to open. Edge flashings are the front as well as rear of the building, where your common wall flashings go over literally your neighbor to your right and your neighbor to the left. And again, I can't emphasize enough that if these areas have not been sealed, it's time to do it now, because tar has to set. And it's not going to be that easy with our temperatures dropping into the 40s. And imagine having 2 feet of snow on your roof, and then things begin to melt. So the other thing we talked about, Barry, was referrals, but I have this big word, trust. When was the last time you were ever on your roof? Because in the cities where the housing stock was built, pre-World War II, most homes had these low-sloped roofs. And when you have electric power lines in the back or even in the front of your home with these mansard or severely pitched roofs in the front, accessing the roof can be life-threatening. And even as a home inspector, I use a 32-foot ladder to access a roof, and sometimes I still have to hop from the ladder to the roof. And by the way, Barry, I really don't tell my wife what I do for a living as long as I'm home for dinner.
I hope she's not listening to today's show.
Well,
you'll be in trouble.
I tend to tell wow, that's a little tongue-touching there. I don't tend to tell my wife what I do, but I do tell my clients because they see what I do and how I make it work. So trust and referrals, you do have to choose carefully, but do your homework. And again, you want to ask your neighbors, your work associates, check out the Better Business Bureau, because you really want to make sure what you're paying for. I know a number of years ago there was a contractor out there that would bring a bucket of water up on the roof with him, and he asked the client to go out back, and he said, look, I'm going to step on this air pock, and when he did, he tossed the bucket of water over the roof. So you really have to be careful. Again, there's less good roofers than more bad roofers. Now, there's some new terms that I'm going to shoot out to you, and the first one is mansard. The mansard roof, if you live in around the Cottman Avenue area in the boulevard, mansard roofs are those severely pitched roofs, maybe 4 to 5 feet wide, and then go the width of or high and go the width of the building. Then we have pent roofs, gables, shed roofs. We have standing seam roofs, which are made of metal. We have soldered tin roofs and terracotta. So what this means is that these are all types of what we call appendages that are attached to your home. The mansard roofs were really popular in the 1930s to the 1950s, named after some French dude. And it was probably Mr. Mansard, but being an American, we tend to butcher names a little bit. And again, these are the ones that usually have slate roofs with ribbon slate that can last maybe 70 to 75 years and then begin to fail. And you can definitely tell the difference between the sunny side of the house and the sunny side of the street versus the shady side of the street, because the sun will really affect the life expectancy. And if you see white rings or efflorescence in and around the slate, it's a sign of deterioration. And what I find is that you have to pay almost a small fortune to get a slater out there to replace the slates. And sometimes it's actually cheaper to have them removed. So if you're finding where they're cracking or spalling or falling to the ground, my advice is don't repair it, replace it. And the sad part is we're starting to lose a lot of our slaters. Today's fiberglass shingles can look or even mimic slate and can be good for 30 years. A slate or terracotta repair can be several $100. A new roof should be under $1,000, and it's going to, last during the entire time that you spend in your home. A 3-tab fiberglass shingle, those are the ones that are about 12 inches wide, may last longer than 20 years. But if you're noticing now that they're cupped or cracked or have really widened at the picks, again, I would suggest that you replace them now. Life expectancies, let me help you with a little bit of future as I look into my crystal ball. So a 1-ply roof, again, 6 to 8 years. A 2-ply and 3-ply roof, about 10 years. A modified bitumen roof, 12 to 15 years with maintenance. Rubber roofing, 15 years with either lower or no maintenance. 3-tab fiberglass shingles, maybe 20 to 25 years. Slate, ribbon slate, again, the most popular slate in the Philadelphia area, 70 to 75 years. If you're lucky enough to have West Virginian slates or Vermont slates, those are your colored slates, maybe 100. Okay, so with winter coming around the corner, you really do have to focus on your roof because the weather is your enemy. And it's not just because it's the change in temperature, which affects your tar, it affects your penetration, but things won't seal as well. So you don't want to put a low-sloped roof on in January or even December. So once we get past about mid-November, folks, this is going to be the time to close the window. So that's really why I wanted to do this episode now, to get you thinking about it. When was the last time that I did this or that? Well, Barry, again, I always try to say what's coming up next week. And again, we're going to bring in Mike Cantor with Pest Blaster. He's one of my sponsors. I've been working with Mike now for probably the last maybe 6 or 7 years. And what we're going to discuss is as we rake our leaves away from our homes, what should we be looking for as to keeping mice out of the home? So as it is Sunday, always ask, please spend time with friends and family, and we'll see you next week on The House Whisperer.
Hey, Jack, always great talking to you. We always learn something on every program. Tune in again next week for another edition of the House Whisperer Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. Now, to listen to previous programs, you can do that very easily. Or if you have any questions, visit thehousewhisperershow.com.
Life used to be so hard.